Hello, this is Dr. Stephen Cangiano. I am the president and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events with its online companions, relationship-development.com and humanity-upgrade.com. Today, we are welcoming Dina Marais from South Africa. Dina is a business and life success coach, mentor, author, and speaker who works with entrepreneurs, business owners, and individuals to manifest prosperous and successful businesses and successful life. She believes that the most important relationship is with the self, and her first focus is to always upgrade her client's self-image if necessary. She has a diploma in self-actualization psychology, and she is a PNI, psychoneuroimmunology practitioner. She has studied quantum physics and manifesting practices. Dina is an author, a co-author with 19 other women and an international bestseller. Dina, your resume is too big to go through entirely here on this call. I will preface this with, I read through all of your material, fascinating, great stuff. We're going to have a great, get into some real nuts and bolts and meat today. Is there anything I left out that you would feel might be important for people to know about you?
I think just maybe, in line with what you said about, what I studied, that really is the input into my expertise. Probably just the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and the neurosemantics, because that's really the foundation.
Yeah, it says here that you're actually a master NLP practitioner. I did want to talk about that. Let's get right into it. How did you get into how and what? I'd like to learn a little bit about the person. How did you and why did you get into the coaching business? And you've been doing it for 15 years very successfully. So we'd love to hear.
Yes, actually, in my previous life, I always call it my previous life, I was in IT. I was an IT professional, and but I always knew, there was something more. I always had the belief that we have more than one talent, and we have more than one passion. And it's not to say that we should stay in the same vocation all our lives. So it was also about personal circumstances. IT is a very demanding profession, and it had a big toll on my family life. So we decided I decided to resign, and look for something else. And then really by accident, I stumbled upon NLP. I heard about this coaching thing, and we were very curious about that. We went to see this coach, and he worked with NLP, and I was just hooked from the beginning. So I started to study it. My husband as well. We're actually both NLP master practitioners. And then I continued my studies, and, the one thing led to the other. And I just love my work. I just think it's, the fact that it's based on science, and it's not like vaporware. It really creates results for people. And that is what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, I have some limited experience with NLP, and you can really get some dramatic, quick results. You really emphasize in your work the relationship to self and how important that is. And even in your bio, it says you really start with that. How do you help people realign their relationship with self?
Well, what I do is I first talk to them about how they see themselves. And of course, that gives us clues of what are their beliefs about themselves. What is their self-talk? The things that come up in the back of your mind when you're not even talking to someone else, you're just talking to yourself. And that is also reflected in the results that they get in their life and in their business. And the only way really to create that sustainable change is to give your body a new experience. So we then work on creating grand self-talk, and do that through meditation. I have a lovely meditation that I give people as a standard. It's free on my website. So I believe so much in this. And it's really to experience yourself at a higher level. And, by doing that repetitively, the subconscious mind starts buying into that. And we start becoming that. It becomes our new way of being. And that's what we want to create with the new self-image. It's really a new way of being. So it's, in essence, it's not just, like affirmations. It's wonderful if it's done with emotion. You need to have the emotion with that new vision of yourself. Yeah, that's
Good.
how I do.
Yeah, because I like that concept, grand self-talk, because we call it limiting self-talk, which most people are in, and that limiting self-talk is keeping them stuck in their current reality. And then we have advancing self-talk, which is consistent with the new reality that they want. But grand self-talk even brings it more energy into it, more alignment into it. So another theme that you have is getting the people to focus on what they do want rather than what they don't want, because most people focus on what they don't want. Can you comment on that? And what is some techniques of how you get them to focus on what they do want? Because that, I think, is critical I know it's critical in your work because it says it in your content. How do you get people to do that?
Well, I really give them practices. I've got a few little key practices to sort of tune back in. It's a fact, we have about 65,000 thoughts a day, of which 95% is unconscious. So it's to really deliberately, consciously have little rituals to tune into where you want to go, to tune into the energy of what it is that you want. Because inevitably, if we don't do that, then it's just mind chatter that we have. And in that mind chatter, I always also tell my clients that we all have a built-in success mechanism. We are goal-striving beings. And our subconscious mind needs a target. And if you don't give it a target, it will use the target it has. And if those are the things that we don't want, that's what your subconscious are going to create. So it really takes work. And unfortunately, most people shy away from that. But that is where that is how we are wired, is to really train our brains from scratch, in some cases, to focus on what it is that we want. And to do that repetitively until it takes root and it grows and it becomes a way of being.
Right. This could be a segue, because what you do is you talk about cause and effect. And I think if basically the cause and effect of your results are your beliefs and your self-image, and what the self-talk does is is that break into it? Is that what you're talking about here?
Yes, because our sense of self is our biggest driver in our life. It's the highest frames that we have around ourselves. And that informs us in everything that we do. So if we want to change the effect, we need to change the cause. And one of the causes, of course, I think the main cause is your self-image. And that is to really look at what we think about ourselves. And no, it's not really, and I love that saying by, I don't know who said this, the idea is not to make the old model obsolete or to change the old model because, it's too deep-rooted. The idea is to create a new model and practice living that so that the old model becomes obsolete by itself.
Gotcha. Good. Another thing you talk about, I'd love for you to, because I want you to define this, because it's a term that people hear, but they don't always know exactly what it means. And you talk about soul purpose. How do you get people to identify and then live a soul purpose?
Well, I think if we take a step back first to life purpose, and what I like Deepak Chopra's definition of life purpose. He says it's the intersection between your talents, your skills, and your passions in service of others. Okay, so we have many talents and we have many passions. So any one of the combination will do, actually. the moment we do something that we have a natural affinity for and we love it and we help someone else with it, that's great. However, through our spiritual journeys in life, we go through things, we overcome certain things, or we even hear about someone else and it touches our heart. And that then becomes more than just a life purpose. It touches our soul. It's something that becomes really personal. And for me, that is when the soul purpose kicks in. It's when whatever talents I have and whatever, that little slice then is what really touches my heart. So it's when life purpose becomes personal. That's the way I see it.
Right. So would another way to say this would be alignment with your talents and okay. Yeah. And totally good. You have this, we talked about this psychoneuroimmunology. Now that's a big term and we tend to get into the swamp as practitioners and doctors and that kind of thing. Explain that and explain how that helps your clients.
Okay, so psychoneuroimmunology is the science of how your mind states affect your immune system. And that's a very big concept. And this was actually really studied in depth by a Dr. Ian Weinberg. He's a neurologist here in Johannesburg in South Africa. And he found that he's working with clients that some people will recover quickly and overcome whatever, cancer or whatever they have, and other people just wouldn't. Receiving the same treatment. And that really triggered his curiosity. And to cut a long story short, he developed what he calls the triangle method. And he wrote very in-depth algorithms and diagnostics that people answer. And then the program then tells you not only the effort that you put into your work, your relationships, and your recreation, but also your level of satisfaction that you have. And it's using that 3 triangles in testing where a person's, how healthy they are emotionally, how healthy they are mentally, and also how do they enjoy their work, their relationships, and to what extent do they do recreation, and also if they live in a compartmentalized way, or is their life fully integrated. And these all give input to someone like me as a coach that uses this to coach the person more effectively.
Gotcha.
Does it answer your question?
Yeah, it did. So yeah, but let's get into that a little bit. So what are the practical applications of this? So basically with it almost sounds like you're kind of getting the current reality of the coachee, for instance. How does that then inform and help your coaching process? What are some of the takeaways from that?
Well, I can see then, for example, I've worked with people who are on the verge of suicide. And this, this diagnostic showed that. And it came out that this person was really very unhappy in the work that they do. So I coached him to find gratification and satisfaction in what he does, and to develop the outside of his life, outside of work, so that he can belong and meet more people and do more activities. And his whole life turned around. So that's how I applied. I then use the data from the diagnostic and know where of course, confirm with the client where their problem areas are. Also, what psychoneuroimmunology means is that, the mind and body is one system. So it also shows diseases. It also shows that our mind states can result in illnesses such as type 2 diabetes, such as cancer and tumors and, all kinds of diseases, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all of that, because it affects our hypothalamus, it affects the amygdala, and basically our whole brain, and it all depends on the neurococktail that our brain releases moment to moment, depending on how we feel. If we feel great all the time, then we have a beautiful neurococktail of optimal levels of noradrenaline, dopamine, and serotonin pumping through, and every cell is having a party in your body. But if you don't feel good and you feel depressed and you focus on what you don't want and feel fear and frustration, then that neurococktail looks totally different. Then you get more adrenaline, no satisfaction at all from the serotonin or the dopamine. So that causes inflammation in your body. So, to get really technical, there are little peptides like interleukin 6 and interleukin 1 that causes inflammation in your body. And that then creates the diseases that we experience.
It's absolutely fascinating that you bring that up today, because I have an interview at 1 o'clock with someone who goes into, the neurochemicals, the 5 basic ones. There's many, but dopamine for people to move towards, and we're going to get that. So let's simplify that. So what you're saying is that if the brain body connection is that if you can train the brain to focus on what you do want rather than what you don't want, what it does is it decreases the stress response and it increases the happy hormones or the happy neurochemicals in your brain. And that is an amazing field of research right now. And I can understand how and why you get some of the results you do, which is really fascinating. So don't be like afraid of those interleukin 1 and interleukin 2. Those are just mediators of inflammation in your body. And they've actually proven that stress increases inflammation in your body. Cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And so, that's so germane to advanced coaching in this day and age, in my opinion, obviously your opinion as well. I have a list of questions that I just want to kind of rapid fire with you a little bit, because there's so many great themes in your content. I just want to kind of hit them, if you don't mind. You talk about free will and abstraction. Tell me what your concept of free will is, and maybe in the context of cause and effect. You hit on that a lot in some of your materials.
Well, free will is, of course, that distinguishes us from the animal kingdom. The rest of the animal kingdom is that we have a free will. And in that, of course, means that we have a choice. And we make choices all the time. So basically what it comes down to is that, when we use our free will to focus on the things that we want in life, then that creates, of course, personal freedom for us as well. And it's that free will that we sometimes feel, depending on the rules that we have created for ourselves, that we don't have a free will, that we are subject to someone else's rules. And so often people think that the reality that they are in and the circumstances that they are in, are set. And it's only because they don't understand that if they can just use this amazing, I always say it's the most important piece of equipment that we have, just using your brain, using your imagination, and start creating a reality in your mind and tap into that and live that. And try your best to ignore the circumstances, but just, even if you see the circumstances, just step back into that reality that you really want. And before you know it, it will start happening. So it's to really use your free will as well, to practice your faith in terms of knowing what you want, because that for me is key. You have to know what you want. You have to decide on you have to have a clear picture of what it is that you want. And then start focusing on that, start contemplating it. And then, step into the energy of that when you take action as if you have it. Now that sounds very broad-based, but that's really what it comes down to in the end. Sorry, did I answer your question? I didn't actually know where you saw the free will. So I just wanted to get back to the context of that I used it in.
Good, very good. No, another thing you talk about is the laws of the universe and creative substance. How do you integrate that into your coaching? What is creative substance in your mind?
Well, the creative substance is the infinite power, is the thought universe that we live in. We are surrounded by this creative life force energy that is in all the creative spaces all around us. And it's a thought. You know, whenever anything is created, you have to have an idea of it first. So it shows that we create with thought, we create with ideas. And that basically everything that we want is already here. And we just need to align with that. And that's where the universal laws comes in, to know what it is that you want, as I just said. Know what is the energy of that, because that is the alignment, is to align with the energy. Because the law of attraction is alive and well. It works all the time anyway. But you need to work with it.
Correct.
So that you can get what you want. Because
Right.
it will bring you whatever you are thinking about. So that's where the energy comes in. That is so important.
Yeah, you know, I worked with a lot of the people in The Secret, that's some of the co-authors of The Secret, met like 5 or 6 of them I knew personally. And my finding is that the law of attraction always works, but most people attract what they don't want.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the things, almost all the things that we discussed here, is you help people attract what they do want, because they're always attracting something. Another thing that, and this is I love this concept. You talk about there's no failure, okay? Only feedback. Get into that for a minute, if you would, because that's a really important concept for people.
That is actually a presupposition or a principle of neurolinguistic programming. And it works on a few levels. And it also works in communication, so that whenever you communicate with someone and whatever response you get back from them, it's not a failure if you don't get the response that you actually anticipated. It's just feedback, because they are feeding you whatever it is from their mindset. Okay. The other level that I love to talk about it is, of course, in us taking action, and of us doing things and creating things. And that also leads to the ultimate success formula, so that you know what you want, you step into it, you take action to the energy of it, you take action, and then you get results. And it's to notice those results in terms of the overall premise that there is no failure, there's only feedback. So what is the feedback that I got from what I did just now? Is it working for me? What is working? What isn't working? Because it's also that fine line between when is it now failure and when is it a success. And to really analyze it a bit and to see, okay, so what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? So it's really just to see everything in your life as feedback. It's giving you feedback on where you are in relationship to where you want to be.
And that's also your current circumstances are just feedback.
It's just feedback.
Right. Because a lot of people look at their circumstances and say but it's just feedback, which is, an ideal. And the constant, if you can break into the thoughts that are creating your current circumstances, that's also feedback. Yeah, that's a super important concept. All right. This is phenomenal information. Another thing you talk about, and this, I think this maybe can pull everything together. You talk about upgrading your self-image. This is really one of the most important things. And how you talk about breaking into thought and going from limiting self-talk to grand self-talk. We call it advancing self-talk. I'm going to take grand, and I'm not going to give you credit for it, if that's okay. I like that one.
It's not mine. I also just picked it up somewhere.
Oh, beautiful. And then what you do is another theme is you want to take people from And I think this is a real problem. People feel like victims, and the world is changing so quickly. Things are and a lot of people are stuck in that realm of victim. How do you go from, and you call it victim to victor? Tell us, give us some insight into that.
Oh, I love that concept so much. There are actually two of them going together there. The first one is to take responsibility. Take 100% responsibility for your life. And actually what we mean by that is that we create our lives with what we think, as we just know already, what we think and feel and say and do. And that is the results. And then those results inform and confirm our beliefs again. So that's how we go. But if we take responsibility for our thoughts, and this is so important in with regards to relationships with other people as well, is that nobody can make you think, feel, say, or do anything. It comes from you. So if you say people press your buttons, well, you are the button maker. And that concept, just by taking responsibility that you can't do anything to me or make me do anything. So if you insult me, then I choose to see that as an insult. I can also choose to see it as it doesn't bother me. And that concept comes actually from Viktor Frankl, when he was in Auschwitz, and the psychiatrist, and he said, his frame of mind was always that you can make me do anything, but you cannot make me hate you. Over that, I have power. And those are four powers that we all have, is our thoughts, our feelings, our words, and our actions. And it's to take control of that and also accountability of that. And to realize that everybody's got their own power zone, and not to take responsibility for somebody else's power zone. So often parents want to do that, or partners want to do that, by taking responsibility for the other person. You see that a lot in somebody opens their mouth to say something, and the mother or the partner would say, no, don't say that. Don't, rather keep quiet, or that's not what he means, or something like that. It's over responsible. But that's a whole codependent relationship and a whole different topic that we can talk about some other time. The most important concept here is that when we take responsibility, we inevitably move away from victim.
Right.
Because we take control of how we respond. So you don't have control over things that come out, anything beyond your skin, events that happen beyond your skin, but you have control over how you respond to it.
Right.
So that moves us from just reacting to creating our response, to choosing our response. And of course, just that concept that I am responsible. So that concept is scary as well as liberating. Scary because there's nobody else that you can actually blame now anymore for your circumstances, or nothing, or nobody. And liberating because, gosh, I can create what I want. I can choose how I think about what I want. And just quickly, I know our time is running out. Just the other concept that goes with this is measuring your self-worth in terms of what you do or not do, have or not have, or other people's opinions. And the whole idea here is to separate your being from your doing, and not to confuse your self-worth with self-confidence. Self-confidence is all about what you do. You can learn a new skill. You can learn to do something better. These are all external. But your being is unconditional. That is from spirit. And if you can separate that actually is the best antidote for perfectionism, because whatever I do does not affect me as a person, as my being. It's something I do. So you can have permission to screw up things at least 3 times a day now. If you tap into that, just by freeing yourself from this whole thing that I cannot make a mistake, because what will people say about it?
Right.
What will it say about me that I'm not perfect, kind of thing?
Yeah. I had that in the list here, the perfectionist. Let's unpack. I want to unpack some of that, what you just said, because it's really great information. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, the last human freedom is to think what we want to think in any situation. And that really, what I noticed is that a lot of couples, a lot of people, especially people who are disempowered, say, you made me feel that way.
Exactly.
And that's becoming this victim mentality in the United States, maybe everywhere, is like, it's like, even in the workplace, it's, well, you made me feel threatened, or you made me feel this way or that way. And it's really a fascinating, I think it's a rabbit hole that people are going down, where people like yourself are promoting taking responsibility for your feelings, and then other people are doing the opposite. So it's really important what you said here. And then one of the topics you talk about is being a perfectionist. How do you help people? And maybe we should, maybe we should kind of bring it in for a little bit of a landing. How do you help people not be a perfectionist and not worry about, like you were saying, I think, well, how are people perceiving me? Like, because I think people worry about what other people think, and then that's why that's the motivation for perfectionists. Please comment on that.
Yes, it's mostly a fear of rejection, a fear of not being good enough. And of course, that stems really from childhood. And, and unknowingly parents get into this, where they, if the child performs well, they are praised. And if they don't perform well, they are reprimanded or punished or ignored or whatever. And then, of course, the teachers go on as well, follow on from this. And the child then perceives that for me to be loved and approved of, I have to perform. And that's where we learn to compare. That's where we learn to compare. I have now this car and you have that car. You have all these degrees I don't have. So we compare on an external level. And it's really for people to realize that, that's what I do. I help them to separate the being from the doing, so that they can see that. And of course, it's all a little bit of frames about what does it mean when, how important is it for you what other people think of you. And to show people that external things change all the time. We change as well. So it's to really buy into the concept that it doesn't mean when I make a mistake. And also, the big thing about perfectionism is that people don't have a criteria. So yes, and it goes hand in hand with all or nothing thinking. Everything has to be absolutely perfect before I can take action. I have to have everything in place before I can take the next step. However, they really have criteria for when is that next step? What is 80% readiness? Because you're never going to get it perfect. According to whom anyway? So if I teach my clients to have a criteria when something is really 80%, and for the other 20% to grow into, to evolve, because that's where the perfectionism happens, is when we start taking action and put things out there. Mm-hmm. So perfectionism also goes hand in hand with taking things personally. So in other words, if we are criticized or somebody doesn't like, something that we did, we take it personally. I actually helped one client one time. He was a guy, he was a very high executive, and his business unit in the bank, he worked for a bank. The business unit in the bank provided services for all the other business units, like IT services, recommendations of processes, etc. And he came to me that he wasn't in the sort of the inner circle. He felt rejected. And in the end, to cut a long story short, it came out that he took everything personally. So whenever one of the heads of the other departments said no to his proposal, he would take it personally. So once he realized that it's not about him, it's about the issue, it's about the proposal, he just had such a transformation. Because that's what perfectionists do. They make everything about them.
Right.
And start separating.
Yeah. And so that brings it really full circle, because you really, perfectionism a lot of times comes from a limiting self-image. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal. You know, I went through your website. We're going to have that posted here. You have a lot of resources on the website. Maybe you can just kind of like direct people to, hey, where do I, because there was 8 or 10, it was a lot of them. Where would you direct somebody to get started with you and or with your resources, or both?
Well, if you buy into what I talked about self-image and upgrading your self-image, then you go to my website, dinamarais.com, and on the home page, you will find a free meditation that you can download and start listening to. Then on as resources, dinamarais.com/shop. Now, something there that's really goes hand in hand with the free meditation is the high energy vibration kit. And that contains, remember I talked in the beginning about the little rituals that I teach my clients to do to keep themselves plugged into focusing on what they want. That energy, I think I've got 10 little rituals there, and also 5 bonus. And these 2 things that we talked about now, the responsibility and the self-worth, are 2 of the bonuses that they get as processes that they listen to. So that is a really a great resource. Some of the resources there are for business, are for entrepreneurs on how to, for clients, etc. And then there are some personal resources, like the high energy vibration kit can apply to both, as well as the Reset Your Destiny is a program where you rewire your brain. And that is really, if you have had some troubles in childhood, or you really find that you are in a deep rabbit hole, you want to make some changes, then I would really recommend that program.
Very good. All right, good. So it was the meditation to download, the high energy kit, and then what was the final one? Was Reset
Your Destiny.
Reset Your Destiny. All right, great. Well, Dina, is there anything else you want to leave people with that maybe we didn't cover that's important, or did we cover it all?
We covered it all. I just want to say to people that wherever you are in your life, if you can make a change, you can change anything. There's nothing cast in stone, and that is what I love about the way that we are created by the universe, by God, by Source, whatever that is to you. Is that we have this amazing brain and mind that we can really utilize to work for us. And it's never too late or too early to do that.
Very good. And it's so true, because there's no fixed reality about anyone. And we get to see that on a daily basis with the people that we work with. It is a pleasure to work with you. We're so glad that you're part of this with us, that you've decided to help us get this message out. A beautiful interview. This is Dr. Stephen Cangiano, President and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events, signing off. Dina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was such a great conversation. Thank you, Stephen.